Disney's damage control efforts are in full swing as the release date for Snow White inches closer. With just a few days to go, the film is already projected to be a box office failure, not only due to Rachel Zegler's divisive comments, but also because of its departure from the beloved 1937 classic and the Brothers Grimm tale. One of the biggest red flags came when Disney abruptly canceled the UK premiere, signaling internal panic. Now, even the US premiere is being scaled back, with strict limitations on press questions. Topics like Zegler's on-set behavior, her relationship with co-star Gal Gadot, and the film's drastic story changes are reportedly off-limits. Instead of a grand Hollywood event, the premiere will be a closed, highly controlled affair, a stark contrast to the usual fanfare surrounding Disney's live-action remakes. Meanwhile, Bob Iger has re-entered full damage control mode. He previously embarked on a PR campaign in early 2024 to combat Disney's declining reputation, and now he's back at it again, trying to downplay the backlash surrounding Snow White. Despite widespread criticism that Disney has prioritized ideological messaging over storytelling, Iger is insisting that the film has nothing to do with politics or social agendas. However, with fans rejecting the film, ticket sales looking bleak, and controversy still raging, it's clear that Disney's narrative is falling apart. As the release of Snow White approaches, the controversy surrounding the film continues to intensify. Between Rachel Zegler's ongoing remarks, the reported tension with Gal Gadot, and the film's departure from the original story, Disney CEO Bob Iger has stepped in once again in an attempt to control the damage. In a recent statement, Iger addressed the backlash head-on, stating, "As we prepare to present one of our finest adaptations of Snow White, I want to acknowledge the unwarranted and disruptive noise that has surrounded this project. At the Walt Disney Company, we have no room for inflammatory rhetoric or baseless opinions that attempt to undermine our success. The negativity we have witnessed has unfairly impacted both our customers and shareholders." He went on to deny any political agenda, claiming, "Let me be clear, with Snow White, there is no hidden agenda, nor is this film part of any so-called culture war. That is simply not what Disney stands for, nor has it ever been. We remain committed to our values, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. While some may use terms like woke or agenda to misrepresent our efforts, the truth is, we believe in giving opportunities to talented individuals from all backgrounds. If that is an agenda, then we proudly stand by it. I urge audiences to judge this film on its own merits and not be swayed by misleading narratives." Despite Iger's defensive stance, it's clear that Disney is struggling to contain the backlash. With pre-ticket sales reportedly underwhelming and growing skepticism among audiences, the future of this live-action remake remains uncertain. As Snow White's release date approaches, the controversy surrounding the film continues to escalate. Disney CEO Bob Iger has once again stepped in to address the criticism, making it clear that the studio has deliberately chosen to depart from the original source material. In his latest statement, Iger defended the creative decisions behind the film, stating, "Criticism and false narratives have attempted to hinder the success of this film, despite the story's rich history. We made the conscious decision to break from the source material, as we felt it was necessary to craft a fresh, unexpected narrative. That is exactly what we have done." This confirms long-standing speculation that Disney distanced itself from the classic Brothers Grimm tale and the 1937 animated film. It also highlights Disney's ongoing shift in creative direction, prioritizing modern reinterpretations over traditional storytelling. At the heart of the backlash is Disney's perceived disregard for the original audience, fans who have cherished Snow White's classic story for decades. Many see this remake as yet another example of Disney imposing its ideological stance on beloved stories, much like what happened with Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With fan trust dwindling and Disney struggling to win back its audience, this latest adaptation may prove to be yet another misstep for the company. Disney's struggles continue as Disney Plus subscribers dwindle and the company faces massive losses following a turbulent 2024. Despite this, CEO Bob Iger remains adamant about defending Snow White, fully aware of the storm that awaits once the film hits theaters. As expected, Hollywood trade outlets have begun praising the film, branding it a masterpiece and one of the best live-action adaptations ever. However, many believe these reviews are manufactured hype meant to bolster Disney's image ahead of release. The real test will come when general audiences watch the film. That's when the true verdict will be delivered. In an effort to counteract the backlash, Iger stated, "We remain committed to our vision of diversity, equity, and inclusion in certain stories as we continue evolving our beloved brands. The perception of Snow White has been widely misunderstood, and we strongly encourage audiences not to be swayed by a loud minority driven by politics." This statement further cements the divide between Disney's leadership and its audience, as critics argue that the real issue isn't politics, it's the departure from storytelling fundamentals and fan expectations. With audiences already skeptical and early signs of a box office disaster looming, Snow White may become yet another cautionary tale for Disney's modern approach to filmmaking. Disney is in full-blown panic mode as the release of Snow White inches closer. With backlash mounting, CEO Bob Iger has doubled down, dismissing criticism as politically motivated noise and claiming that accusations of an agenda-driven film are pure lies. Critics are dragging their politics into this conversation, which is unacceptable. The Disney company does not engage in such behavior, nor do we respect these baseless arguments. However, fans and industry analysts argue that the political angle originated from within Disney itself, particularly from lead actress Rachel Zegler, whose controversial social media remarks about the film fueled much of the initial outrage. It is in my best interest to assure everyone that our film is not agenda-driven, and any claims suggesting otherwise are lies spread by the people. This bold stance has only worsened the situation, as audiences feel gaslighted by Disney's leadership. If Snow White truly had no agenda, then why is Disney limiting press questions, minimizing the US premiere, and avoiding conversations about Zegler's controversial statements? Adding to Disney's struggles is the broader rejection of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in Hollywood, especially following political shifts. With Disney trapped in a corner, it's clear that the company is simply desperate to move past this disaster, hoping to sweep it under the rug as quickly as possible. Right now, Disney just wants to move on. They're desperately trying to distance themselves from this whole mess and shift their focus to other projects. But the reality is, no matter how hard they try, this controversy isn't going away anytime soon. The damage has already been done, and they have no one to blame but themselves. And honestly, at the heart of all this chaos is Bob Iger. Let me say this loud and clear. Bob Iger will go down as one of the worst, if not the worst, Disney CEOs in history. His leadership has been nothing short of a disaster. Bringing him back after Bob Chapek's departure was, in my opinion, one of the biggest mistakes Disney's board has ever made. It was a desperate move, a last-ditch attempt to steady the sinking ship. But instead of fixing things, Iger has only accelerated Disney's decline. Remember when Bob Chapek was in charge? A lot of people were quick to blame him for Disney's failures, but let's be real, Chapek was never meant to be a long-term CEO. He was just a placeholder, a temporary figurehead until Iger decided he was ready to step back in. It was always part of the plan. The idea was simple. Give Iger time to step away, reevaluate Disney's trajectory, and then return with a fresh perspective to patch things up. Instead of coming back stronger, Iger returned with the same failed strategies, the same misguided priorities, and the same inability to course correct when things started going south. And now Disney is facing a financial and creative crisis, unlike anything they've seen before. Let's not forget that Disney has been on a downward spiral for years. Their box office numbers have been weak. Disney Plus is bleeding subscribers, and their once loyal fan base is more alienated than ever. And yet, rather than listening to their audience and making real changes, they're doubling down on the very same mistakes that got them here in the first place.